Welcome, everyone, to the All About Us podcast, where we explore African and indigenous cultures worldwide, showcasing our shared bonds. Our first guest on this podcast is Timothy Robinson. The topic, the absolute best defense is avoidance. How are you doing today, Timmy?
Good, Carl, man. How are you? Good to see you, my brother.
Oh, it's great to see you, Timmy. It's been many, many years. I mean, we have so many shared experiences. I was thinking about it the other day, us growing up in Reading and how we were so tight and didn't even know we were cousins.
That's right, man. Small world. Small world.
It was amazing. And then we bonded even further in the military.
Marine Corps, USMC, brother.
Yep, USMC forever. Okay, Timmy, before we get into techniques, can you explain what's really based upon self-defense and the different traditional martial arts forms? So how is self-defense different from martial arts?
Okay, yeah, the martial arts, man. I've been training martial arts for over 50 years. And martial arts is good, but that's just what it is. It's either an art, okay? And I say an art like you go into a museum and you see the beautiful techniques, you see the beautiful form they do. It's an art form. A lot of it is somewhat antiquated. So, in other words, you're not going to go out and pull a sword out on the street today, or a wooden sword, or some scythes or sickles, or it's a sport. And, I always say the difference would be in self-defense, it's not a sport. So let's take MMA, for instance, or even sport karate. You go in there and there's a referee. In case you take your thumb and you put it in the guy's eye, you're going to get a warning. Or you pull out your knife or your force multiplier and you hit the guy with it, you're going to get a warning, or you're going to get disqualified or arrested. Same, so that's self-defense. It's, you don't know when you're going to meet your opponent, and he's there, and boom, you got to defend yourself. So it's quite a difference, which there's a lot of misconceptions that people don't understand. They think martial arts is the self-defense, but it's totally different. It's totally different in that way.
Okay, well, let's go into some of your background, because you have 50 years of martial arts training. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you started off with Terry Hayford.
Terry Hayford, yeah. Before him, I started off with a guy, Pat Duncan. Now, this is many years at the old PAL, Police Athletic League. And then right after that, then I met Terry, and then I've been with Terry. I was his up until his death back in he passed away 2002, somewhere around there, 2012, something like that. But
wow, yeah, I thought it was earlier than that. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta look, man. Teacher was going so long, man. I gotta look. Definitely, yeah. I was under Mr. Hayford for many years. Then I went to Japan and I was under Shoto Tanemura, Grandmaster Shoto Tanemura, for a little while as well.
And then while we were living on Camp Pendleton, we used to have those blood draw matches between myself, you, and what was our partner's name, where we used to have our martial arts?
Baron Steele.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, we used to. I found him online, actually. Yeah, I found him online. He has a LinkedIn page.
Yeah. He's working overseas as a contractor. He might be back now. He said actually he is back. He's going to be in Alabama doing law enforcement. He was a Chicago police officer for a minute. So now he's doing his thing there. And yeah, he's still there, man. Yeah. You remember those days?
Yeah, it seemed like I remember them. We drew blood. The two karate guys against the kung fu guy. So, okay, so now what are the basic precepts of self-defense?
Okay, the basics, Steve, but when you go with self-defense, you got to understand it's number one, situational awareness. And when you want to break it down, it's, you're aware of your surroundings, because if you can prevent something, then, if you see it, you can prevent it and you don't have to deal with it. You don't have to fight it. Take, for instance, a police cruiser, okay? Parked on the side of the road. There's no police officer inside, right? So you're speeding and you see that police cruiser there, and all of a sudden you slow down. Now, it's invisible. Self-defense is invisible because they don't know how many lives they saved because you saw the vehicle and you slowed down so you didn't get in an accident. Same thing with self-defense. With self-defense is if I can see and I can observe someone, then I avoid them. So self-defense is about avoidance. The best self-defense is avoidance. Like Sun Tzu said, If we can avoid 1,000 battles, we win 1,000 times. So we want to avoid it by situational awareness. And then you got to understand if you can't avoid it, then you have to evade or escape. If you can't evade or escape, then you de-escalate it if we can. And then if we can't de-escalate, then we defend against it. Now, that being said, it might happen real fast, as an ambush attack.
Correct.
Boom, attack's there. So you have to have a skill set to be able to deal with that as well. It takes about 7 seconds for the bad guy, I'll call him, to choose his victim. And that's all. 7 seconds, we call it the pride, the perception. How do you perceive yourself? How do you carry yourself? Okay. Do I carry myself head up, looking around, or do I carry myself slumped over and with not a good shuffle, not a good body language? That's the guy he's going to pick on. Ted Bundy, that's how he used to pick his victims, by the tilt of their heads. I
Right.
can pick you and pick them out. 7 seconds. So you got to understand what your perception, and then after your perception is the risk. Is he going to attack you? Is it risky? Am I going to get caught? It's not doing the crime, and I'm going to talk about crime as far as self-defense goes. It's not doing it; it's getting away with it. Anybody can do it,
Okay.
but are they going to get away with it? Then after the risk is involved, it's your assumable values. What do you got on you? You got
Mm-hmm.
wallet, gun, a car, and what kind of
Mm-hmm.
material values do you have? And then after that, defense. Can you defend yourself? So that's how the bad guy hunts. So if you can put all that together and be able to observe, now that's self-defense. Okay, you're able to
Okay.
defend by knowing those things. So if you can avoid it, you're good to go.
Okay, so now you are based in Florida. What city are you based in?
We're in Coral Springs now. My headquarters is in Coral Springs, but we're going to get rid of the brick and mortar, and we're going to do travel and train. So we're going to go all over the country, all around the country.
Okay, and currently, what is the actual name of your business?
Transformation defense.
That's Transformation Defense, audience. So, once again, Timothy is stating that his business is getting ready to get on the bicycle and he'll be traveling all over the country teaching his self defense techniques. Now, a question: how does self defense differ between a man and a woman? Because there has to be some type of difference there, because
Absolutely.
men are innately, in most cases, stronger than what
Mm-hmm.
a woman is. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems like your business is really kind of heavy on women and children. That seems to be at least 50% of your clientele.
Yeah. And we did that by design. Most guys think, number one, they know self defense. So, what do they call it? The Dunning Kruger effect. So, they'll come in and they think they know, but they really don't know. So, a lot of people, especially men, think of self defense as, well, I got a gun and I don't need self defense. I don't need that. Until we dispel the myth and we have a gun, we give them a gun and say, okay, pull it. And before they get it out, we disarm them. So it's easier for women to be able to defend themselves because of their passiveness. So, for instance, I teach my girls, and they see my girls know how to avoid, but if they get or anything, but if they get into a situation, they're going to strike. They're going to go from 0 to 100 at vital points on the
Mm-hmm.
body. Most
Mm-hmm.
self-defense is taught wrong because first time they teach, you go into a boxing gym or a dojo, they want to teach you, okay, make a fist and punch. Well, that's wrong for a woman because if a woman punched me in my coconut, she's going to break her hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like a
Correct.
car with a flat tire. Now she loses one of her tools. Okay, now she's at a disadvantage. So we show them when they come in how to strike. We prefer open hand, where to strike. So we give them a couple of targets, not a lot, and we don't do a lot of the intricate moves like twisting around because when you're scared, when you're afraid, the adrenal dump kicks in, and all those motor skills, go out of the way. You're only going to be able to use large motor skills, and or you'll forget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we
Mm-hmm.
teach them straight, directly to the point, using their voice as a weapon. I always say there's three people in a situation: them, the other guy, and their voice. So they're using their voice. Again, back to what I said. It's getting away with the crime. So, for instance, my daughter, someone attacks her. She takes her thing, we call it a thumb punch, and she takes it like this. And she jams it in his eyes. Okay, 0 to
Mm-hmm.
100. Her hands are up, and all of a sudden she bam, right in the eye. Now she screams and yells. He has to make the psychological decision of, do I go after this? Do I abort? Okay, so we put it up to him. Okay, escape. I told all my women, most of them carry, we call them force multipliers. They're guns. They carry
Mm-hmm.
guns. I'm a gun instructor, firearms instructor. They're carrying guns. They're carrying, using their keys as weapons. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, when you use your keys, I don't know if you can see my keys. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
myth is
Correct.
put your keys in your hand like this and punch. But watch what happens, Carl.
Mm-mm.
It'll never work. It's a myth. Plus, it's
Right.
going to cut your hand. We
Hand.
tell them
Right.
hold it like an ice pick. Now we put a
Mm-hmm.
leveraging hand out there. Once he'll grab the hand, now he's occupied. You're going right for the eye. Okay.
Okay.
Now we're running. They're trained to stop the threat. So women, to answer your question, women are geared or taught to escape. Number one, we're not teaching them to fight. We're teaching them to hit vital points and escape. And they're going to do their attack until the threat stops. Period. Whatever that calls. If they got to hit them over the head with something, they got to do that. They're all taught how to use improvised weapons. So, for instance, a glass. We'll put it to the face. Can you see this? And we're going to push back under the philtrum, holding the back of the head. Very painful. It drives him down to the ground. Now we hit him with the cup or the glass and run. It can be done with a soda can, shot glass.
Show that technique again, please.
Sure. Okay. So it's done here. I don't know if you can see my hand. Now,
Mm-hmm.
so the hands are going to be here. Now, immediately 0 to 100 without telegraphing it, they're taught to grab the back of the head really fast. So now the head's a magnet. This is going to be jammed straight into the philtrum under here. It fits any kind of glass. Now they push
Mm-hmm.
down and back
Mm-hmm.
forcefully. Okay, and they're taught to go 0 to 100. Nothing ginger. Because
Mm-hmm.
when it gets to this point, it's 0 to 100. Nothing else will do. They're driving down. Where the head goes, the body follows. Now when they're down, they're going to use whatever's in their hand.
Correct.
They strike. Now they're off like a dirty shirt. You see? So we're not teaching them how to fight.
Okay.
We're teaching them how to avoid first. We're teaching them what they look like so they're not soft targets. And then if it comes to the fighting part, we're teaching them how to go from 0 to 100 to be able to defend themselves.
Okay. Now, another thing which, whether you're a man or woman or child, that you
Mm-hmm.
need to overcome is fear. What do you have to say about fear, and how does especially a woman or a child, how should they approach fear and overcome that fear in that situation?
Yeah, when we talk about fear, we'll say, okay, when you get out there, a lot of times once they start making noise, okay, yelling, okay, that fear is going to leave. Okay, they're in the zone now. From practicing the movements, and it doesn't take long, but practicing the movements in a scenario, okay, it has to be scenario. I can kick a bag for 10 years and I go out and get into a fight, I forget everything because I get scared. Police officer or anyone, I mean, a lot of people go to the range and they'll go out and kill paper, bang, 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 and think they can use that gun in a real life situation. It's not the same. That fear comes in, that adrenal dump comes in. Okay, so from our scenarios, it's almost like the analogy I can give you is if you were ever on a roller coaster. So you came down the roller coaster, right? And for the first time, maybe you're scared of roller coasters,
Mm-hmm.
and you came down, and you're like,
Correct.
but it took your picture. Now you went up again. You said that was cool. That was straight. You go back up, and now you know where that camera is. So you came down that roller coaster. Now you're like, hey, whoa, because you've been there before. So from our scenarios, the real life scenarios, we give you that. Hey, get over here now. Get over. Psychologically, that's what we want. Okay. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between it's a training drill or it's the real life. You have something to come back to in a real life situation. Now you're not afraid because your mind says, I've been here before. It might not look like it does in a training center because it never does. It's ugly. Okay. But you'll do something, you won't shut down and you won't have that fear. You understand?
Okay. And yes, it's almost as if doing nothing is the worst possible situation. When you do something, whether or not it's move, yell, or react, that snaps fear.
Right. Self defense is
Fear will
about movement.
freeze you.
Yeah. The Cooper color code. Okay. He was a Marine Corps Lieutenant Cooper, right? The color code, white. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
White is that person that's with their cell phone, their heads down. And I do an experiment. I tell everyone the first day in, I say, text me. So everybody puts their head down. I'll put 2 fingers up. And then I say, how many fingers did I put up? They'll never know. They didn't see it. So
Right.
that's code white. You're at home and you're chilling, watching TV, and all of a sudden, boom, somebody breaks in, you kick your door in, and they're there. You were in code white, you were watching TV. Code white. Code yellow. Code yellow is we're in code yellow now. We're talking. Everything's chill. We're not excited. The next code is orange. Orange is if I heard or if you heard a big boom in the other room, you went, whoa, what was that? Or I could say orange would be if you're driving and you're driving along and then someone cuts in front of you. You go, hey, hey, watch it. The next color code is red. Red is now you put on the brakes. Or if you heard a loud noise in another room, you went out there and you're like, oh, what was that? Now you had to investigate. Now you're in fight or flight. Man, should I run? What's going on? You know? And the last one is black. Black, we never want to be. Okay, because that's where that
Okay.
shutdown comes in. That's when you're done. So we practice these color codes, and they're for situational awareness. Everyone, their first days in class, they learn those codes, and they learn to always be in yellow, situational aware. Back to when we started, what I explained.
Okay. Now, how does training a woman differ from training a child, or is it kind of the same?
It's kind of the same. We're all about the mindset and how the bad guy thinks. For instance, we love the psychology of self-defense. I was with an international company for about 13 years. I just left them, Cobra Defense. But I like the how the bad guy thinks, what I learned over there. And if I go to a kid, okay, for instance, and I go to a kid and I have a knife or a gun, I'm going to use that to make the kid fearful. I can control him in a million ways. I don't need a gun for a kid, but I might say, "Get your butt over here right now," or put a knife on his throat to abduct a child. Okay, she might use that knife to actually use it on her. So she has to learn knife defenses. I don't show children knife defenses because there's other things that they can do to get away from that situation, knowing that the bad guy's not going, he's only using it for fear. Now, not all the time because nothing's absolute, but most of the time we see it's going to use to scare a kid. But a lady, we're going to show her what to do if that knife's on her throat or that gun's on her head, or he's on top of her and he has a gun on her head or something like that.
Okay.
Basically,
What
80% of
is
self-defense.
okay? Okay. So when you are in this self-defense mode, the
Mhm.
worst possible position to be is on the ground, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or with a gun on your head, but you don't want to be on the ground.
Okay. And so what are some of the potential moves or techniques that someone can use when they're on the ground?
Okay. When we teach, we say about 75% of the time it might go to the ground. Either you're thrown or you fall. The first thing you got to do is get up. Okay. Try to get up to your feet. After that, there's a position called the recovery position. So when you're on the ground, and it depends on the situation. Are they going to jump on top of you? We got a bunch of ways that things that we can do. But if they're going to, especially when you fall down, you're going to turn to your side. Your legs have to be facing the attacker, and hopefully it's only one because
Okay.
men and women are attacked differently. So if it's
Right.
only one attacker, you'll turn onto your side. Now you're going to try to kick the legs and try to look for a way to get up. To immediately get on your feet because you don't want to be on that ground. Basically, if you have a firearm, like I said, most of the women I train carry. They know how to fight or shoot from the ground. They know how to defend from the ground. If they can't
Okay.
get up, then they need to go into what you might find this in jujitsu. It's called the guard position or the mount position. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just a way to wrap the legs around the torso here, controlling the head. So we want to control the head. Say if the bad guy's
Right.
on top of her, he's here. If we can anchor, I live in Florida now, boats everywhere. So we learned that word anchor, right? But we can anchor on that arm, hold that head tight. Now we have him close. Now we want to bite or whatever we need, a thumb in the eye, and then try it again. Get on our feet. At no point do we want to stand there and wrestle and grapple and try to tap him out. Carl, when you're in the Marine Corps, have you ever been tapped out?
No, I've never tapped out. I've seen others tap out.
But I mean, in a real, like when we went to combat and everything, you don't hear about that. Or a police
Mm-hmm.
officer, if you're fighting with a bad guy, he's not going to get tapped out. He's going to fight until he can do something. It doesn't exist only in sport. Usually
Exactly.
in sport. So
Sports, right.
most people's mindset is they're going to grapple with this person. Now, men, you start grappling on the ground, my boys, he's not standing up, he's going to be kicking you. You know what I mean? So it's totally different mindset.
Right.
And there's that difference between a sport or martial art and self-defense.
Okay. Now I'm going to interject, and because I've been in several situations, and
Huh?
one of my techniques, and I want you to critique this because it's totally unexpected and it's almost impossible to stop. And what I generally do is I will take my whole hand, stick it in someone's mouth, and my fingers up underneath their tongue and grab it, that pressure point up underneath your tongue.
You're going to go in? I never heard of it. If it
Mm-hmm.
works, if it works, yeah, yeah,
It's quite painful. It's quite painful, and it doesn't take a lot of strength. It doesn't take a
yeah,
lot of strength.
yeah. I've never
Now,
heard of it, but
children,
uh-huh.
okay. Now, children, should a child engage or should a child always be trying to back away?
Avoidance is the best. Using the voice, okay.
Okay.
And it depends. If it's a predator, screaming, yell. We the first thing we teach them is yelling. You're not my dad. You're not my mom. Get back. Get away from me. Do it now. Do it now. The voice is king. That's the other third person in that situation I was talking about earlier. So we teach them how to use their voice, and then depending on the situation, we teach what's called shredding, to where they're going to go right for the eyes or for the throat, but initially they're going to go for those eyes if they can. They're going to do what's called a spike kick. It's almost like that front kick you learned as kids,
Right.
but it's with a
Mm-hmm.
straight leg, so it goes up not like a.
Right.
We dispel the myth that the front kicks don't work in self defense for real. It's a myth. But the spike kick works better for children because they're close in, and the bad guy never sees it coming. So it's a straight leg, almost like you see it in rugby, where the leg's straight, it goes up into the. We're not kicking the groin, we're
Okay.
kicking the pelvic bone all the way up. So that's what we're teaching kids.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching them how to anchor onto the body
Okay.
to prevent from being lifted to another location. Main thing is use their voice. They don't. We're not teaching to fight. Everything I teach is not fighting; it's surviving to get away.
Okay.
Every
So, what are some of the awareness techniques? What are some of the awareness techniques that you really drive home with the kids to even prevent themselves from getting in that sort of situation?
situation, we play something called the KIMS game, KIMS. Law enforcement does it, and special forces does it as well. Is where I have a bag and I have 6 items in there, random, boom, 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 boom. And then when they come into class,
Mm-hmm.
they describe this for me. Okay, so now they have to describe the item. So now, and I wait half hour or hour, right before class is ending, and they have to do this. So it's going to heighten their situational awareness. It's going to heighten their memory. Or we play what's called a what if game. Now the what if game is okay. You're walking down the street, and what if someone jumps out? What would you do? So again, it's heighten their situational awareness. Plus, it's working with what's called the OODA loop, and that means the OODA loop is it takes us 1.5 seconds to react to anything. So in other words, if I were to attack you, it would take you 1.5 seconds to react to that. You can shorten that down is what we do. We shorten that time down to, I have clients that are really, really fast and I attack them at random. For the kids, we'll do that to help that OODA loop so they could react. They don't have to think what to do. Again, they're going to be able to react really fast. They're going to have situational awareness. I tell parents, I say, if your child goes to the store, when you pick them out, when you bring them out from the store, tell them, okay, what did the clerk look like, and have them describe the clerk in the store to you, and play little things like that, and it goes a long way over time. Proven, this is all proven to heighten their situational awareness. We're cutting down that OODA loop or that reaction time, and it's proven.
Okay. As I was growing up, I never really heard my parents talking about self defense. I mean, most of the time, it was like my parents would say, if someone hits you, you hit them back. And that's pretty
Mhm.
much it. But why should parents be cognizant of self defense? And should parents be more concerned about that? And why should a parent get their child involved in self defense?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because of the times we live in, we're living into the time now where someone they'll watch you get beat up. It's called the bystander effect. They'll not watch you get beat
Hmm.
up or watch your child get hit, banging your child's head on the ground. And what's everybody else around doing? Their cell phone out, videotaping it for likes
Exactly.
rather than come to the bystander, rather than come to your defense. So we're living in a different time. It seems like people are more on edge or high strung. So self-defense, there's no better time than self-defense at this point because the times we're living in, and because of this age, if everybody, your kid gets in a situation, somebody takes videotape of him, they can see it all the way in Australia. Your kid getting knocked out for likes, because of the cell phone the age that we live in now. Self-defense could not be more important
Yeah,
now.
one of the strangest trends I've seen now is a child getting in a fight with another child and the parent jumping into the fight actually.
Okay, getting in. Yep.
Where it's two on one, and once again I'm bringing this up because it really seems societal wise that something happened during COVID and a
Mm.
bunch of people just snapped. Do you have that same perception? Like,
Yeah.
it's like before COVID and after COVID.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point. I agree. I noticed that too. Yep.
Okay, speaking of family safety,
Mm-hmm.
what about security?
Mm-hmm.
Many people in many communities now are still dealing with this home invasion thing. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen everywhere, but it seems like more locations are prone to it than others. I think, just naturally me, I think there would be a bigger problem in Miami and Florida in general
Mm-hmm.
with it. I hear about it all the time in California.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the basic techniques if you are in your house and you believe there's an intruder entering your house?
Yeah, that's something. It starts from the door. A lot of people buy the ring cameras. The
Okay.
bad guy is going to go after a soft target
Right?
in people and homes. So he might walk and gets to houses, and he might say they have
Mm
a ring cam. They have a ring cam. They don't have a ring cam. Boy, that's
hmm.
the one
Mm
I'm
hmm.
going to. Soft target. Or he might. I always tell everyone, picture, go outside at night and assess your home and see what the bad guy. Think like a predator. Think like a bad guy. So, in other words,
Mm
when the curtains open a little bit, do you have a ring cam? Things like that. Single females, I say put a man's work boots by the door. Big pair of work boots. Put a big bow. Wear a sign dog. Dog sign. Beware a dog. Sign. Put a big leash. Put a big dog food bowl. So smoke and mirrors to kind of stop it from the door. The bad guy's going to look for the soft target. Like I said earlier, it's his risk. Is he going to get away with it? He's not going to get away with it. He'd rather go to another house that he doesn't have that problem. Now, if he gets in, one trick I used to tell single women as well is if you don't, like some women, they don't have guns or they don't believe in guns, have some Lysol cleaner or some Clorox cleaner by the door. The bad guy comes in, he'll totally
Okay.
miss that. He'll totally miss that. That's a weapon. You're going to spray that in his eyes. If he sees you, he'll probably think, oh, she's clean, but it's there. So it's going right into the eyes. That's poison. That'll do something. So we're staging the home. Have a
Correct.
5-inch block so you can put by your door so he can't close it behind him. Things like that. We say
Mm
kind of set up your house. If you're
hmm. Okay.
say single female, of course, good old firearms never hurt. If people want to use those. So, yeah, but it starts from
Okay,
outside.
so
How
now let's go into that. Your firearm training. What ages do you generally start teaching firearms? And what are some of the important points when someone chooses a firearm as a means of personal protection?
so we start. I teach a lot of homeschool groups. For some reason, I find they're more uh, acceptable for the training. Sometimes I'll teach
Mm
families, but a lot of homeschool groups, I start them, when the parent brings them 10, 9, it's up to the parents.
hmm. Mm hmm.
And, but we teach gun safety first, always keep that gun pointed in a safe direction.
Correct.
To never touch the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Those types of things, the fundamentals. But we teach them how to respect the gun. Being a Marine, you know well that is very important. And then we
Exactly.
go from there. But it's basically gun safety, man. Gun safety. For parents, where are you storing your gun? Are do you have it locked up? Do you have, your proper, lock on it, or say, do you have it in a safe? That type thing. but it's about respecting that firearm, man.
Okay,
And
now, what
let me,
role
Carl, let me,
does.
can I expound on one more point about that?
Mhm, go ahead.
Because with that firearm, you got to understand it's your ability. If let's say if a lady's going to use it for self defense and a man is going to use it for self defense, it's their ability to access, retain, and deploy that weapon. Okay, or access, deploy, and retain it. So out of those three things, retention is the most important part because you got to hold on to that gun or the bad guy gets it. In law enforcement, they call it the 20-foot rule. So you can give someone 20 feet and you can bum rush them, you can get that firearm. But a lot of people have misconceptions that they'll go out again, kill paper, and think they can deploy that weapon under and being scared and think they can fire it effectively. You need training. You need training under stress and duress. Very important.
Okay, what role does physical fitness play in self-defense? And is it important or necessary to be physically fit in order to protect yourself?
I'm glad you asked that. Yep. Um, it's it's just a part as the I want to say techniques themselves. It's all a part of it. You can't defend yourself because you got to understand once the adrenaline dump kicks in, you're going to be so out of breath, you're going to be so tired. The audio include your ears, you're not going to be able to hear. You have tunnel vision. A lot's going on. Your motor skills aren't what they used to be. So if you're not in shape and you're not training, it's not going to be there for you. I'm big on self defense. It's all a part of it. I see some people, they're really out of shape and they're saying they can defend themselves. I'm going to call BS on that or BS on that.
Not for long.
Yeah.
Not for long.
Yeah.
Not for long, they won't be defending themselves.
No, no, and it's a misconception that people think, and I see it a lot in martial arts that they hide behind either what they did a long time ago, but their physical fitness doesn't say that, or they hide by what belt they have, and this is such a it should be malpractice because they're not in shape, they're not in Marine Corps. We had to be in top shape. That's all a part of it for children, for women, and for
Exactly.
men. And period. Yes, I train.
Mentality has carried on. I mean, look at both you and I at our ages, still very physically fit. That is one of the biggest points, I think, which isn't shared and people don't understand. Self-defense is very important, but your physical fitness plays a huge role in your ability to defend yourself.
Absolutely, yes. Yep. Because that adrenal dump, once that adrenal dump kicks in, man,
Hmm.
in a real life situation, and that then you brought that fear up, man, you're tired as all he double hockey stick. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be the same
Right.
you are in a dojo. You know what I'm saying? It's totally different world. Totally different world. Yep. Good question.
Okay, for let's talk about workplace safety. Many
Hmm.
of our listeners work in the service industry, some will work night shift. What type of specific advice would you give people that maybe work in a place that's prone to attack, like maybe a grocery store, or maybe they're working night shift by themselves?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So, workplace, if you're by yourself, I mean, the door, wherever you're working, the door got to be locked, control the access. So you can see who's coming in, who's going out. And that way you can, again, stop it, put those barriers between, you know, put those barriers in. If you're working in say, a nurse, nighttime, you're going, when you go to your car, you're going out with a group, you're leaving. Because the bad guy needs three things to attack you and be successful. He needs the time, the place, and the method of attack. He always controls that initially. He always
Correct.
controls. Now, what is he looking for? What motivates him? Money, ego, territory, or emotions. That's what pisses everybody off. They're going to fight for one of those things. So you got to understand how he thinks, and then take away the time, place, and
Correct.
method away. So if you're working alone, then that door is locked. Okay, make sure if it's a store, if they want to come into the store, you got to buzz them in. You want to see them. You want it well lit. Those types of areas. You definitely need a force multiplier with you, something that's going to help you defend yourself, especially if you're female. Because a man, let's face it, like you said earlier, a lady can't beat a man. I don't care. but unless she has a
Mhm.
force multiplier, she has something to fight with, keys or whatever, or a knife, gun, whatever. But
Man and a woman of the same a man and a woman of the same size, a man is always going to hit harder than a woman.
always,
That's just
yeah,
anatomically.
yes, yep, yep, yep.
Okay.
And the myth
The other
is,
point is the
go ahead, sir.
go ahead, finish.
No, no, I said, and the myth is just the opposite.
You were going to say okay.
Yeah, yeah. The myth is just the opposite because a lot of people say, "Well, I'm a female. I got a black belt." Take time until she meets that guy on the street that doesn't care about that belt, and he's strong and he's heavy.
Correct.
It goes all goes out the window. You got to have a skill set to avoid that, or know where to hit him to stop the threat immediately. Period. Preferably a female with a force multiplier.
Okay. And the other big thing a lot of people don't think about, I am very big on sleep. I'm very big on sleep. And so, once again, if you find yourself in a situation where you're working alone or you're working at night in a shift, in a location, in an area where various people can hide, you have some of these large warehouses,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you can be in a location isolated. Your
Mm-hmm.
fitness to me affects your, not your fitness, you having enough sleep affects your awareness. When you have less sleep, then you're less aware of your surrounding.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that
Yep.
goes back to the one of the points which you talk about in self-defense. You can't avoid something if you're not aware.
Exactly. Yep. Back to that color code. Back to that color code. Yeah. Because you're in code
Okay.
white then. You know.
What about de-escalation? Can you share some effective verbal um, actions that will actually or can deter someone attacking you or a predator?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The first thing is there's a couple. I taught the Broward down here, the Parks Department, 1,500 of their employees in the park rangers, de-escalation techniques.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you have to be empathetic. Okay. And we do a lot of role playing on this. It's very uncomfortable where I have two people. One's the bad guy, and we use an example. Hey, you bumped my car door with your car. With you bumped my car with your car door, and so we have them de-escalate it. One guy's upset, the other guy has to de-escalate. But some words we say number one, be empathetic, and number two, you never tell someone like calm down. Okay, you don't want to say, hey, calm down, buddy. Calm down because that's going to make it escalate. You always want to use the body language so you can be empathetic. So, for instance, if you bumped my car door and you were upset, if I bumped your car door, I'm sorry, and you were upset, I might say, "Oh, hey, I didn't mean it. I got insurance. I know what you mean." So my hand comes on my chest, my hands out here, and this so it can de-escalate. I understand what you're saying. I know I had a bad day. My bad, man. I think I got insurance. Okay. I want to always keep any kind of situation. I want to stay at least for 1.5 arms length away. Okay. And also, I want to stand slightly
Okay.
to an angle to their 45s. Okay. The reason being because I want to avoid the sucker punch. So it would go here. Like, hey, I understand, completely understand. We can work it out. My hands are always going to be above my waist because of reaction time in case they try to hit me. I can say, the biggest thing I tell people is to be empathetic, okay, and then assess the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what you're talking about. If it's for girls, I want to say, like, say the cat calls, hey girl, hey baby, hey, baby. We call it the rock, okay. So in other words, they put their hands up
Mm-hmm.
like this and they walk away at an angle, it totally de-escalates that guy. It kind of cools him down because it kind of shocks him because and it's amazing how this works. You say, hey, no, no, I got to go. I got somebody. My mom's over here. My dad's over here. My boyfriend's over here. But your hands are up. Her hands are up. And she's walking away at a 45-degree angle, back the other way to safety wherever she could see an exit, okay, or a way to get out of it, to evade it. And it totally de-escalates the bad guy because she removes herself from the situation. Okay.
One last point here. In this day and age, you find more so a lot of women and children don't have cars or may need transportation, so they get the Uber or the Lyft. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in the back seat. So what are some techniques or avoidance or awareness? What should a woman or child be looking for when they're in the back seat of an Uber, and what techniques can they use to protect themselves?
Excellent question. Well, when they call that Uber or that Lyft, okay, first of all, it'll tell you what the drivers' names are, okay? Or down here, we had guys were actually pulling up to the club and saying they were Uber. The ladies were actually getting in the car.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you can do is just
Mm-hmm.
say the driver's name, okay? It matches the name that you got on the app. Hey, Jose, okay? It matches the name. Another thing you can do is you can tell the driver, hey, or the girl can tell the driver, hey, I want to take a picture of your license plate. I want to send it to my boyfriend, my mom, my dad, or anything like that. If he's up to no good, he's not going to want you to take the picture of his license plate to send to somebody else. So again, we're putting layers in and smoke and mirrors. They absolutely have to look and see if that child lock is on. A lot of the cars have that child lock in between the doorway there, the child safety lock. Okay, it's in the door, in the hinge of the door. They want to look and see if that's on or off. A lot of times we find out, and I had a client that used this, is when you want to take their picture, when you say their name, they'll abort the mission because again, that risk factor. Remember I explained earlier how they pick their victims. The one part of that was risk. Man, I'm going to get caught if she sends this picture of my license plate to her father or her parents. You see what I'm saying? So, and if they're legit, they'll take it.
Correct.
Now, so what if all that fails? Now you're in the car. Oh no, what do? You're in the back seat. You can use the seat belt to pull back and choke them and pull it back. Okay, 7 to 10 seconds if it's on the carotid artery, that's out. You can blindfold them and pull back
Okay.
hard on the seat. Okay, did you ever do the trick where you have somebody sit down, you put your hand in the center of their head and ask them to stand up? They can't stand up.
Right.
Same thing if you have the eyes, you just pull back and hold.
Correct.
Now, screaming and yelling. Okay, the whole point is you're not going to go to a second location with that driver. If they're in the front seat, what if they say, oh no, hey
Correct.
baby, sit up front? If they say sit up front, you can do what we call a steering wheel anchor. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
the driver's here. You can put your arm in between the steering wheel, up to the elbow, this way. Put your head next to the steering
Mm-hmm.
wheel like this. Now you're going to hold on. Now, what you're going to do, you're going to create a slow speed crash. Okay, you're not going to get hurt. That airbag will
Mm-hmm.
go off. It might burn their arm, but that's better than being taken to a second location. Okay, everybody likes a
Correct.
slow speed crash because it's going to attract attention. Now the bad guy has to think, what's he going to do? If you're in the front seat, you can grab the
Right.
keys and run. Now, when you run, if you grab the keys, you open the door, you run. You don't want to run back or front because he can catch you. You want to run to the sides, out to the sides, throwing the keys one way,
Mm-hmm.
you go the other way, screaming and yelling. Again, now he has to figure, do I want to get caught? There's that risk factor again. Do I want to get caught or do I want, it's not worth it to him, you see, because again, it's not doing the crime, it's getting away with it. Good stuff.
And that's a very good point because we aren't always aware. Running the direction that the attacker is intending to go or running the direction you just came from are the worst choices.
Right. Right.
You want to run, like you said, sideways.
And see what you do is he has to run all the way around the car to get you. You're gone. We can run 30 feet, in how many seconds? Okay. So you're going screaming and yelling. Okay. Running wherever you got it, the voice, beautiful thing. You see? And we do it. I put people in cars and I say, and like I said, this is a part of our scenarios. So in an abduction situation, put them in the car. I said, get in my car right now. And this is from 6-year-olds to adults. And then I say, you can get out whenever you want. They try to get out. Boom. If they go front or back, I'm on them. I got them. When they go away, man, they're so far away from me, screaming and yelling. I got to be stupid to get them. And
Correct.
nothing's absolute.
Okay.
So we do give them a skill
Okay.
set. Yep. We give them a skill
Okay,
set.
now we're entering this section of the show. Okay, Thank you, Tim. Now we're entering the section of the show I call flip mode. That's where
Okay.
the guest gets to ask me 3 questions. So, Tim, what's your first question?
How many degrees do you have? Because you've been studying, so man, for about
Well,
50 years.
I actually have I actually have a bachelor's degree in biochemistry. I have a
Hmm.
master's degree in analytical chemistry. I have a bachelor's degree in graphic design, game art, and with minors in animation and visual effects. And I also have an M, but I never got licensed because my program was an MD PhD and I never went back to complete the PhD portion of it. But but yeah, I spent a lot of time in college. I spent a lot of time in college, and one of the things I want to tell people is that going to college won't necessarily get you a good job. That
Hmm.
doesn't mean that a college education is a waste. Anytime you invest in yourself, anytime you invest in yourself, it's never a waste of time. What is your second question?
I noticed you went to Puerto Rico. How do you like it?
Brother, for I would say about for 30 minutes, it was a culture shock. When I got out the plane and got into the taxi, I kind of felt like I had traveled almost 50 years into the past. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I mean, different affect people differently. I felt initially like I was back in the 60s in Cuba and expected to see Ricky Ricardo walking across the street. And I actually thought it was going to take me longer to adjust. But after 30 minutes, man, I just like totally got acclimatized to the environment, and I just love it. I just love it, and that's where I'm moving. And I think the most, how can I say it, enchanting thing about it is it's so very different, but it's not very different. And what do I mean by it's not very different? You have Walmart, you have Walgreens, you have Rite Aid, you have Burger King, you have Kentucky Fried Chicken. So you can embrace and indulge yourself in the culture,
Mhm.
but then always find things in areas that are very familiar. So it's like, having access to two different worlds, which is good.
Wonderful. Good, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to make that
Oh,
move one day.
yeah, come visit us. Yep, come visit me.
I'll
What
be there.
about your third question?
Um,
Okay.
hmm. And you answered it because it was what's up with the anime? And I noticed you went to a show a few months ago, or convention or something, anime convention. So and you kind of touched on that's the thing, and you really enjoy that.
Well, what actually happened was I went through a transformation during COVID, and I had a company at that time called Animation FX, and we were doing a lot of animation for cartoons and television commercials, and doing special effects. But what happened with COVID shut the movie and television industry down. So I laid off all of my employees. Instead of trying to wait it out, I laid off all my employees and totally got away from that business. I don't know, it wasn't something that I did mentally. I just innately shifted and I got into nonprofit. So I started a nonprofit. A lot of it started out as an alternative to Black Lives Matter. I like the concept of Black Lives Matter, but standupanddo something.org is a social justice nonprofit for people of all races,
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
religions, all cultures. So it's kind of more kind of like an international Black Lives Matter. And then what cartwheeled off of that is the nonprofit became a federal contractor. So it was kind of like a big shift. So now everything that I'm doing, even this podcast show here, is kind of like an extension of my nonprofit. The nonprofit is kind of like the hub that everything that I'm doing works off of.
Nice. Sweet,
Well,
sweet.
Timothy Robinson, you're a very busy guy, hard to catch up to you. Tell us the name of your company again, and what's the best way to contact you?
Transformation Defense, email at transformationdefense@gmail.com. And yeah, if you want any kind of training or want us to come anywhere in the world, we're there. Each got one thing. We're on a mission.
Alrighty, Timmy. Well, thank you for joining the show. Hey,
Thank
maybe
you, man.
down the road, let's hook back up again and do this again. Once again, that's transformational defense, correct?
Transformation Defense.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank you,
Transformation.
Tim. Thank you. Okay, we have a little delay here, but thank you, Tim, for joining the show. I thank my guests for taking the time out to listen or watch this show. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Carl. Thank you.